Hello, hello.
Good. I was gonna say good morning, good evening.
I know, good
We've been
evening.
doing so many webinars, fireside chats. You wake up in the morning with us. You spend the night with us. What else are we gonna get? It's not
Oh,
like almost we're gonna it's like a full-time relationship with us.
I'm so happy, guys. Halfway through the year,
We're
killing
getting
it.
there. Yep, Panthers. Yep, I hear you. This is the perfect pregame before the Florida Panthers game, right? It's gonna be winning and winning.
Yes, let's go Panthers.
Yeah. Mark, just so you know, I don't know if you're a hockey fan. Today's the game one of Stanley Cup. Our Florida Panthers. We're ready to kick some Canadian butt.
Gotta
We're big sports fans
represent.
here, or at least I am. I'm a sports fan. So, Mark, you don't know, like during our webinars, the day afters, I even give a sports announcement if the Panthers, Miami Heat, New York Yankees do well. We run all sorts of promos depending on if we
Our
win.
community.
It's our community. Yeah.
Well, if,
So,
if if during the presentation somebody scores a goal, you can just interrupt me and announce it.
well,
We won't
I
do
just
that.
want I already know the Panthers are going to win today. So without you guys even knowing it, Mark's doing something special for us. So I'm right into my existence to win.
Yeah, I think we're live too. I think we got it.
Yeah, think so.
I think so. It looks
Yeah.
like it's working. Good job, Tina.
Let's
He's always
see.
working hard behind the scenes. Looks like it's loading.
Yep. It's yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So big step for BPM Rio. We're live on Facebook or Facebook Live, I should say. All the above. So yeah, we're not just real estate investors. We're actually know some technology thanks to Alexa, not Anish, not the
Oh no, thanks to the team. The team, I appreciate you guys. The power team can't do anything without the team. But hopefully it's working, guys. So if you're on Facebook Live, go ahead and comment on this if it's working. But without further ado, we're gonna start getting rocking and rolling here with our June monthly meeting. And thank you guys for coming out. I know you all will continue to trickle on in. And in the meantime, I'm happy to give you some announcements, let you know what's going on. But I first want to welcome you to the BPM RIA monthly meeting. That is Broward, Palm Beach, Miami-Dade Real Estate Investors Association, your only local and approved chapter here in South Florida that is partnered and in compliance with the National Real Estate Investors Association. My name is Alexa, COO at BPM RIA. I have some awesome guys in the virtual building. We have our CEO, Anish Dave, as well as Mark Halpern. Okay, he's a national speaker, smarter investing expert, but guys, that is like not even close to what he actually is. He's like so much more. So we'll get you guys familiar with Mark, but we're really glad to have him here to discuss, full-time income from part-time investing. That's what he's going to chat about tonight. But we did get a slightly brief overview of what he's going to chat about tonight from the cruise in National RIA over in February. But we were just chatting before the webinar and like he's added so much. Like he's added so much. He's been working on this so much since February. So it's probably going to be like way better. And just, I mean, I'm excited because it was already awesome from what we heard on the cruise. So excited to bring that to you guys tonight. And to get us started on a super positive note, you guys already know we're going to raffle a 1 year membership to BPM RIA tonight. So somebody in here will be getting paid to attend. So all you need to do do to enter the raffle, I just popped the details in the chat for you guys. I'll continue to remind you throughout the webinar today, and I will announce the winner at the very end. All you need to do is text the word membership to 954-800-6961. And you guys, this is for everybody. You can be a current member, you cannot be a member, anyone can win this. It's completely random. So go ahead and text the word membership to 954-800-6961, and you will have a chance to win that 1-year membership, $295 value. So good luck, and I will announce the winner at the very end of tonight's presentation. So upcoming events, you guys, I know it's a little bit tiny, so hopefully you're not on your phone. We just got a lot going on, and I wanted to just briefly touch on all these amazing events that we have going on. So next week we have an awesome webinar on the condo market. A lot of you guys have been asking for this. This was a requested class, and Nextmill Mastermind will be hosting this free webinar. We will have in about 1 week and a half, we'll have a workshop in person in Plantation hosted by Nextmill Mastermind as well. Again, super highly recommended class on AI and Facebook ads. Get leads daily, even on a small budget. So guys, I'm telling you, you do not want to sleep on any of these events. We are going hard this summer. So get locked in. And most all of these are free classes. So then we're going to follow that up with a free webinar with Nextmill Mastermind covering vision, systems, and people. We're going to master the business growth here. So really excited for that, the VSP framework. And then again, guys, another in-person workshop. I like to call it our Boca Raton HQ, but this is going to be one of the offices of one of our mentors here at BPM RIA. They have the Real Estate Ninjas Wanted, finding deals online, driving for dollars. So this will be a hands-on workshop over in Boca Raton. Highly recommend you come out for that Thursday, June 26th, 6 to 8 p.m. We have our monthly meeting coming up, guys, so please don't sleep. 2 in-person workshops, 2 webinars for you guys for the rest of this month, and then we'll pop back to July and do it all over again. We can't wait. So many great classes for you all. And of course, we just locked in our next quarterly meeting. So you guys, that's posted. You can go get registered. That's going to be at Nova Southeastern University, our quarterly networking meeting. So tickets are open right now. And I think I made a little discount code for anyone that locks in early. So go ahead and use that coupon code early at checkout, and you'll get a little sweet treat from me. So go, get locked in, get registered. All these amazing events are posted on the website right now. Link is in the chat, and we really look forward to seeing you guys in person, getting to meet you, shake your hand, and all that good stuff. I've been meeting so many people online virtually recently, so I'm really excited to meet you guys face to face. So go on the website and get locked into those events. My favorite way to keep up with events via text. It's super easy. You get the text message straight to your phone, really convenient and easy. All you need to do is text the word BPM REIA, all one word, no spaces, to our event line. It's 954-800-6961. You get the text to your phone. Great reminder and really convenient. So highly recommend that. And the details are in the chat for you all. And guys, I promise we will keep talking about this until we can't anymore, because it is the best. Our 2-day quick start, it's a 2 full day boot camp online via Zoom. Some of you guys want to get your wholesaling businesses started. Some of you guys need clarity on what track you want to go in real estate investing. This is going to be the place where you do that. You're going to spend 2 full days with us live via Zoom. Your cameras are on, microphones are on. You're going to get to network with the other people in the Zoom call. It's going to be all about wholesaling, flipping, rehabbing. We have 4 incredible guest speakers on this training. They're all business owners, all local here in South Florida, all people on our power team that help get our deals done here in the coaching program, and our mentors and everything we do. So I highly recommend, if you haven't done the boot camp yet, go check it out. Link is in the chat. Mark your calendar, August 16th and 17th, and you'll meet our new students. You'll meet future students. You'll meet other realtors that want to learn how to invest. It's just such a great place to learn, you guys. And of course, after the first day, if this is not for you, it is a money back guarantee. So it is the safest training that you could possibly take. And you get to spend 2 full days with Anish. You're going to learn a lot. So get locked in and mark your calendar for that and go check it out on the link in that I just put in the chat for you guys. So members, you do get all the goodies. You get the discounts to the boot camp, to our national speaker workshops. You get in free for the 4 quarterly networking meetings that we have per year. You get access to all of those membership benefits that we get through the National RIA, Home Depot, Avis, Budget, Millennial Insurance, Kama Plan, especially. We got to prepare for the future, you guys. So landlord tools, I mean, the list goes on. So I'm really happy a lot of you are getting your memberships now before the quarterly meeting, so you can really make the most of it. So I highly recommend you guys get your memberships. Link is in the chat. Corporate memberships, get with me. Let's see if we can work together and collaborate and grow together. So members, as you guys know, you get all the fun stuff, and go to the link in the chat to get your membership right now. You don't have to wait on me. You can go get it right now and start getting access to the member directory and all that good stuff. So go, go, go. Mentoring and coaching here at BPM RIA. Some of you may know that we do offer one-on-one coaching and mentoring where we put up 100% of the money for our students' deals and split the profit 50-50. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I highly encourage you to book a discovery call on our website on bpmria.com. You'll see a book a discovery call button. I would love to get a brochure in your hands with the complete breakdown of everything that we include in our 2 programs, along with the pricing information. We put up the money, we split the deal 50-50, we walk through it with you. You get your own personal mentor. We completely set you up for success. So we really, really love talking about it and sharing about it. And I would love to connect with you and get you guys all the details for that. So I always, always, always have to take a moment to thank you guys for showing up today. And we always want to take a moment to thank the National RIA and all of our vendor partners that you can find on our website. Please go check them out on bpmria.com. Click that vendor partners tab and definitely get locked in for the quarterly networking meeting where you can meet them face to face and really put a face to the name and get connected and start building your power team. Like, this is what we're here for. This is what we're here to, give you guys value and get you all connected with all of the experts in this area. So without further ado, you guys, just a couple housekeeping rules. We don't want to miss any questions, so please put those questions in the Q&A box. You will see in your Zoom menu, there is a little Q&A box with a little question mark on there. Go ahead and click that. Put your questions in there. We don't want to miss them. Mark's, very smart guy. So you're probably going to have some questions here, but you guys feel free to check out the chat. I'll be putting helpful links in there throughout the night, and just go ahead and give your attention to Mark. He's just phenomenal. And I'm sure Nish has some words to say
Yeah.
as
You know,
well.
I always got something to say, right? You keep this guy
Man.
hockey night ready to go, right?
Oh,
I'm ready to throw up, with Mark up here. No, as I say, like I am so excited to have Mark. I have the pleasure of knowing Mark through National RIA, specifically the National RIA cruises. I want to say it's got to be at least a decade. I want to say because I've been going. Have you been going since? Like at least I've been going for about 12 years.
2009, I presented our book, We Buy Houses Sometimes,
Okay, there you go. So then
on the 2009 National RIA Cruise.
so that gives you a good idea. So I've seen this guy for 12 years. And when they always tell you that you shouldn't be the smartest person in the room, Mark makes sure that I feel that every time I walk into it, because this guy is without a doubt first of all, one of the nicest people I've ever met. Just a really kind, generous person, and everyone feels that at National RIA. And man, you always have a ton of stuff that comes out, and it always blows my mind. And for us personally, at BPM RIA in South Florida, I know you're in the virtual room. For you to even, have the time and speaking with us, I mean, we just heard about it, what his travel schedules like this summer. We're like, good Lord, on that. And so Mark has so many different topics, and I'm excited about the one tonight. And even what you were talking about before, I know we're going to have you back speaking about something else, because there's so many things that you touch. And yeah, I mean, I'm just ready to listen today, Mark. And I'm going to give the floor to you. And this is your house, so keep it clean. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Well, thank you, Anish. I find it amusing what you said, only because when you're in the room, then I know that there is somebody smarter than me in the room, and certainly both more smarter and more knowledgeable. So, oh well, I guess so.
We could agree to
One of us is
disagree.
not credible,
Yeah.
and that's probably me. Anyway, okay. So yeah, we're gonna talk about full-time income from part-time investing. That's what we're gonna be talking about tonight. And it's interesting. I hope we don't have a misunderstanding, because I'm going to be touching a little bit on what I spoke about on the cruise, but this is going to be more for starting from, let's say, for beginners through intermediates and veterans. And if you want, I can come back and give a talk just for the super veterans, the people that are looking, the enders. But this is we're going to be going through part-time investing from pretty much from the beginning. So yeah, full-time income from part-time investing. You're going to find out here how many hours per week we're talking about, and well, I guess let's just jump into it. So we're talking about, and I've been a part-time investor for a while. Okay, so first of all, if we're going to talk about full-time income, what is full-time income? Well, it depends. You can do whatever you want. You can say 100,000, 200,000, 150,000. Let's just start with the median household income, because we have to pick a number somewhere. So and a lot of people, in the, I guess, 35 to 55 range, or right around that $100,000 mark. But the median household income in the United States right now is 80,600. So we're going to use that as a number for the full-time income. But again, you can choose any number you want and go higher than that. So let's just really jump right into it here. No hype or anything. If you want to have full-time income from part-time investing, you can do 3 flips a year. That's it. And maybe that's and now you can go to sleep, or you can leave and watch your whatever hockey game you want. 3 flips a year at a modest $30,000 a year, and there you go. And there are quite a lot of flips. There are single family home and condo flips in the last couple of years hovers around 300,000. And what's interesting is in 2024, 7% of all home sales in the United States, we're talking about single family homes and condo flips, and condos, were flips. So there's a lot of stuff out there. People complain, well, we can't find one. It's a tough market to find one. We're going to talk about later. You can find, if we're talking about, one a quarter, one a year, 2 a year, you can always find them. And it's just how hard it is to do. But I mean, if you really want to generate full-time income from part-time investing, you can do 3 flips a year. And 3 flips a year is definitely not a full-time job, as we'll talk about later. And in fact, and just to give you an idea, 69% of single-family home flips are owned by investors who have done 0 to 1 flip per quarter in the year. So that means that roughly 2/3 of flippers are doing less than 1 a quarter. So these are definitely part-time investors. Another way of tackling 80,600, you do 1 flip a year, and you can have 10 single-family home rentals. Now, you're not buying 10 in a year. You accumulate them over a period of time. And let's say you have an average of $420 a month of positive cash flow. Then that's another way of making $80,000 a year. So you just, take your time to accumulate a whole bunch of rentals. And it turns out, and this number is down from 89% in 2016, but now in 2022, there were 15 million single-family home rentals in the United States. 87% of them are owned by investors that have 10 or less rentals. So, it's not, and the institutional investors, I think it's like 3% or something like that, or institutional investors. So by far, when we're talking about single family home rentals, this is a mom and pop kind of investing. So as I speak around the country, in most RIA members are part-time investors. Only about 5 to 10% of RIA members are full-time investors. and a bit more than half are part-time investors, and then the rest never buy a house. They just go to go to the meetings, and I guess their strategy is prayer or something. I'm not sure. So I'm going to focus on part-time investing, and the keys to success in part-time investing is you have to be very efficient with your time, and you have to be very efficient with your money. And what we're going to be talking about mostly tonight are a lot of practical things we can do to be efficient with time and money. And just to let you know, yeah, at the end, there's going to be, I think, 2 slides where I'm going to be selling a course. Other than that, and it's not going to be a hard sell at all, I'm just going to be giving as much value as I can, a bunch of tips, things to do, things to think about, strategies, both strategies and tactics. So we're going to be talking about being efficient with time and being efficient with money. I am obsessed about being efficient with time. That's what part-time investing is all about. So the inputs are time and money, and in the end, of course, happiness comes out at the bottom of the funnel. This is a slide from the presentation that I gave on the National RIA Cruise, and this is the efficient roadmap to the ultimate passive investor endgame. And I think one of these days we'll probably come back and we'll do a presentation just on that. But I do want to sort of set the stage for the different stages that we're talking about here. There's financial viability, which is the newbies, and then there's financial freedom, which is mostly the veterans, and then the ultimate passive investor end game is you have simultaneous financial and psychological freedom. We're going to touch a little bit on the ultimate passive investor end game, on the psychological freedom, but I want you to keep that in mind, and also for the newbies to know like where you're headed. But financial freedom is, in my never humble opinion, is not the end game. The end game is financial and psychological freedom. Financial freedom without psychological freedom is not a really, I mean, it's a good life, but it's not as great as it can be. So first, let's talk, what is financial freedom? So financial freedom is the middle step over there. So the way, I don't know how you guys manage your households, but the way that my wife and I have been managing our household forever is we have two ways of looking at money. There's the income and cash flow, and then there's the net worth. So the income cash flow, that bucket, it looks like it has holes, but it doesn't really. What it is, we have inputs and we have outflows. So, you know, we want to have multiple sources of multiple streams of income. And then those holes in the bucket are planned expenses like, you know, food and shelter and clothing and hairdresser and cable TV and all kinds of stuff like that. So as long as the amount of input that's coming in, the amount of income that's flowing in is greater than what's flowing out, well, you're viable. And net worth is sort of like a pile of cash that you sort of accumulate, and it sort of accumulates, and every once in a while you might take stuff out from there. So now the way that we manage our household is that our income and cash flow cover our routine expenses, you know, food, shelter, transportation, utilities. And then the liquid portion of our net worth and the growth, that's for the special expenses like college and weddings and vacations. We're taking a lot of vacations right now, non-insured medical, other emergencies, and, you know, down payments for cars and houses. So you don't have to subscribe to my thought process, but this is the way that we manage everything. We actually have one credit card that we use for routine expenses, and another credit card that we use for our special expenses, and we're able, and I actually manage our household in QuickBooks as one of the other companies, and that's the way we look at it. So we have a pretty good idea of what our routine expenses are, what our special expenses are, and we, again, income cash flow covers routine expenses and all the specialist stuff that goes from the growth and the net worth. So what is financial viability? Okay, so, right, so we have in the red, we have financial viability, the green, we have financial freedom, and the ultimate in blue is the financial and psychological freedom. Financial viability is when your active income covers all your routine expenses. And financial viability sort of is when your savings, whatever that is, the liquid portion of your net worth, can cover the next emergency. But financial freedom is different. Financial freedom has 2 criteria. The first is the classic Kiyosaki one. And again, this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with it, but just, I mean, bear with me here. These are the assumptions I'm going to be using for this presentation. So the first criterion is that your passive income, not your active income, but your passive income, will cover your routine household expenses. And the second criterion is that the liquid portion of your net worth is enough to cover your reasonably anticipated special household expenses from now to end of life. And a lot of households, believe it or not, the routine household expenses are not that great. unless you're like a conspicuous consumer or something like that. Believe it or not, $4,000, $8,000 a month is all about what it is. In my household, it's between 6,000 and 6,500 a month. That's all that we have for routine household expenses. And the liquid portion of our net worth, well, that's a different story. That's been growing very, very nicely over the last few years. But most people don't really need a whole lot more than 500,000. Although it's, if you have 2 million, that's good, and 3 million, it's really, I don't want to say it's impossible to spend it all, but it's really hard, especially, if it's hard to spend it all, especially if you're investing properly at those levels. If you have enough passive income, truly passive income, you actually don't even need any net worth unless you have special expenses like emergencies. So I am a part-time investor. I've been a part-time investor for a long time. And I don't want to insult the full-time investors. If I was actually in the room where I could see show of hands, I would ask for show of hands of the full-time investors. I don't want to be a full-time investor. It's not the kind of lifestyle that I want. Some of you, you like it, but I personally don't. I would consider myself a failure if I had to become a full-time investor, because there are things that I enjoy more than investing. So I'm a part-time investor, and I've achieved true financial freedom without driving myself crazy. And I highlight the words "without driving myself crazy" because that's really important. A lot of people really do drive themselves crazy, and they build up and say, hey, by the time I'm 45 or 50, I'm going to have all this money, and then I'll retire, fire, right? What's it called? Whatever it is, the early retirement. And that's not why I wanted to enjoy my journey from the very beginning. Now, without driving myself crazy, when I was, and I'm not anymore, I'm not an active real estate investor. Active means, going out and buying houses and, doing flips, wholesaling, rentals, and lease options. I don't do that anymore. But when I was, I only did 1 to 2 deals per year in most years. That's all I did. And because I didn't want to drive myself crazy. And 1 to 2 deals a year is that's about as slow as you can possibly do it. So I only bought a total of 16 houses over 11 years. Now, for those of you who are new, you say 16 houses, that's a lot. But for those of you who are veterans, I'm sure in your area, you probably have at least one person who does 16 a year, right? But I only bought 16 houses over 11 years. It was 10 rentals and 6 flips. That's all I did in order to achieve financial freedom. And I put a limit on myself. I said, I will never, ever own more than 10 projects or 10 rentals at any given time. That includes rentals, flips, and lease options. I did lease options for about 5 years. I did one wholesale deal, didn't like it. Now, the truly passive investments, and I'm not talking about rentals. Rentals are semi-passive on a good day. And for those of you who are landlords, tell me how passive it was the day that the sewer line broke. Even though you have a contractor doing the work, those are not passive days. So on a good day, rentals are semi-passive. But the truly passive investment, which is mostly private placements and to some degree notes, but the kind of private placements that I'm doing, that maybe the next time I come to BPM RIA, we'll talk about that. That's what I talked about on the National RIA Cruise. I'll talk a little bit about today. The way I do private placements, those are truly passive. There's zero work other than the deep due diligence that is performed in the very beginning. Once I send the money over, I do no work, get no phone calls, have no responsibility. So no marketing, no sales, no responsibility, no phone calls. For me, I like that. That's part of the psychological freedom part of it. And just to prove to you that I am a part-time investor, my primary occupation is in organic chemistry. I still am an active organic chemist. I do a lot of work in that field. I've written 4 books on phase transfer catalysis. I've written 2 books on investing. One is called We Buy Houses Sometimes. It came out in 2008. Another is Which Real Estate Investment Strategy is Best for You. And in the last few weeks, and even the last 2 days, I created 2 custom GPTs. One which I created, I guess, 2 days ago is Real Estate Strategy Tailored for You. And I'll talk about that one soon. And then one which I created about a month ago because somebody in my local RIA asked me a question about how to use AI. So it took me about an hour to create the cash flow zip code finder. And I'll show you that one later as well. But also, I also invented the first objective metric for happiness. And why? Because I'm a scientist, and I can't, like in the Big Bang Theory, I just can't let emotions run wild. I have to measure everything. So I came up with a way to measure happiness. I have a TED talk, a TEDx talk on that. I wrote a book and I have an app on the iPhone for this. So yeah, I really do a whole lot more than just investing. Before we get into this, to the actual meat of everything, while I am a successful part-time real estate investor, I'm not an attorney, accountant, or licensed financial advisor. Do not take any action or make any decisions based on whole and part of the content of this presentation. I'm not giving any advice whatsoever. Consult with licensed professionals in your state before making any investment or taking any action. Okay, what is 1 to 2 houses per year? So when I was actively buying, the most I would do, I shouldn't say most, it was 1 year I actually did 4 houses, but in most years I would do something like, I would do a flip and a rental. So the house there on the left, that was a flip that I did, and the house on the right, that was a rental. So in this particular year that I did this part of the presentation, so you can see that this actually, these some of these slides are a bit older, but they still work. I did 1 flip and I did 1 rental, and I funded the flip with the rental. Now, how much money did I make? Well, on the flip, I made $48,000 for that little dingy 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. I think it was 1,300 square feet. It was a twin, and I made $48,000 on that. And this was a while back, so that house only sold for $140,000. Today, that house is probably worth 200, 220, or something like that. But I still made $48,000 on it. And then when I got that rental, I actually turned around. I took the money from that one and I bought that rental over there. And that was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,886 square feet. I remember that one. And when I bought it, the day I bought it, I had $45,000 of instant equity in there. So now let's talk about part-time investing. How much work did I do? All right. So for the flip took 2 months of work. And who did the work? Other people did the work. And with the rental, who did the work? Other people did the work. I don't do it. I'm a chemist, for heaven's sakes. I know how to change a light bulb, but I don't do that because if my wife found out, it would set a precedent. I don't want her asking me to change light bulbs and stuff. So I have contractors do everything. My job is to find them and fund them. And then the hours that I would do, let's say during a flip, is when a flip was happening. Of course, I mean, I did the repair estimates and all that, and bought the house and everything. But once the flip was underway, I would go there at the end of every workday around 5 o'clock. I would go for an hour. Contractor would show me what he did. It was usually a he, sometimes a she, but usually a he. And he would show me what he did. I would make some comments, maybe make a decision if there was some decision that needed to be made. And I would be there for an hour a week, an hour a day for 5 days. And starting from the 3rd week of the flip, or the renovation, then I would only go 3 times a week. So pretty much when renovations are happening, I'm doing 3 to 5 hours a week of work, and that only happens like twice a year. So you see, I have and then the buy, fix, and rent. I remember I bought that one. It was October 31st. The tenants moved in on December 14th. It was my brother's birthday. I remember that. So that was 6 weeks. It was a month and a half. And again, other people did all the work. And just during the renovations, because I always buy low. We'll talk about that later. Always buy well below retail, fix it, and then in order to create the instant equity, and then rent it out. There's a video on this as part of the course that we'll be talking about, the Smarter Investing Home Study course, and this is part of Fund the Rental with the Flip. And that's just a general comment that when I was doing things, it was easy to do. You could fund 1 rental with 1 flip. And in that particular year, I think this must have been just before COVID when I put this slide together. So again, the flip made $48,000. It created $45,000 in instant equity. At that time, I had 9 rentals. That was the most I ever had at one time. I had some notes, some private lending. I had a multifamily syndication where I'm not the syndicator. I was the limited partner, the passive limited partner. So the total in that particular case of the cash flow was $66,000 in that year. Those numbers have gone up since then. But in those days was 66,000, and out of that 66,000 in those days, 36,000 was tax free in my Roth. So that was important. And then also because we had the 9 rentals, then the amount of extra equity increase due to the rentals, the loan balance being paid down was another $18,000. So the rentals would take me typically 1 to 6 hours per week, depending on what's going on with the rentals. Then that's up to 10. So that's about how it works. We'll see in a second, or not a second, we'll see a little bit later that what's really, really crucial is choosing tenants. There's nothing more important in rentals than choosing tenants. It's probably even more important than choosing the house. So so the total of the profit, the increase in equity, and the cash flow in that year was $177,000. And again, it wasn't all cash flow, but part of it's, a bunch of it's net worth, some of it's cash flow, but it was certainly enough. And again, it's 1 to 6 hours per week of me. And in this case, it was 3.5 months of others doing the work. It was 2 months other people for the flip, 1.5 months of other people to prepare, to buy after I bought it to fix and prepare the rental. And then the managing part, it's just, a few hours a week. Let's look at my performance in 2024. I'm now down to 2 rentals. I really want to get rid of them, but they're just cash flowing nicely. So the cash flow last year in 2024 was $43,000 from 2 rentals, which is pretty cool. Less than 1 hour per week. One of the rentals, they've been with me since June of 2005. They don't ask for anything. So that's, with them, it's pretty much I take them out to dinner in a diner because we're in New Jersey here, in Southern Jersey. That's the civilized part of New Jersey, and in Philadelphia part. And so I take them out to dinner once a year. I look over the house, everything is okay. And then the other one, I simply turned it over to a property manager. They take care of everything. And last year I had 12 private placements that generated $194,000. All of that is tax-free in my Roth. Now I'm over 59 and a half, so that means, and I've had my Roth open for more than 5 years. Matter of fact, I started my Roth with 0 in it at age 53. And today I've got obviously 7 figures, so it generates a lot of cash. So between the cash flow or proceeds, last year I did $194,000, and the 3 hours per week, or it's about 3 hours per week, almost all of that is evaluating new private placement opportunities. And I also lead a group of 50 investors, accredited investors, and I founded this group. We won't go into all that, but that's some of the stuff that Anish saw when we were on the cruise, and we just launched a whole new thing. But we're not talking about that tonight. So now my part-time investing is, I'm doing pretty much less than 4 hours a week, and between the cash flow and the increase in net worth, it's doing well. So the question is what's the most efficient way to go? So you are here, you need to define where you are, both in terms of your financial status and your psychological status, your happiness. And I have a metric for the happiness. We're not going to talk about that now. You can go look at my TEDx talk on YouTube, but I have ways of measuring it. So the shortest point between where you are now to the goal where you want to be, that's for both financial freedom, the dollars, and psychological freedom in your head, the shortest way is a straight line. Now, here's where it's really, really super duper important to be efficient. You can get to your financial freedom eventually, one way or another. You can choose one strategy, a strategic path. You can choose another one. Eventually, you're probably going to get there. But depending on how you choose your strategy, you might get there faster. So you might get to your $1 million net worth at age 40, or you can do it at age 60. And you're still going to get there eventually, but choosing strategy, choosing the most efficient pathway is absolutely crucial. And here's what most people do. This is the pathway that most people take. They don't go the straight line. They go all over the place. And people typically waste 1 to 2 decades of their life trying to achieve the simultaneous happiness and prosperity that they seek. So it's really, really worthwhile to be efficient with your time and be efficient with your money, but especially your time, because time is where happiness resides. So people say, well, what's the best investment strategy? Well, one size does not fit all. Everybody's got different income, different net worth, available cash, credit score, stuff that you like to do, your relationship status, life stage, skill set, amount of available time, and everybody has different goals for happiness. So one size does not fit all. And there are 4 primary real estate investment strategies. There are 3 secondary real estate investment strategies, Tonight, we're going to focus mostly on the 4 primary real estate investment strategies, and that's why we call this the real estate investment strategy matrix. So flipping is a good example. Well, let's start with wholesaling. If all you want is income, you're not looking to build wealth. It's really hard to build wealth with wholesaling. I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's really hard to do. And if you're building wealth wholesaling, boy, you're not, well, I won't go into that. But wholesaling, typically you make 5,000 to 15,000. One of my friends, she made 90,000 on a wholesale deal. It happens sometimes, but most of the time people are making, $10,000 assignment fees. So that's good for income. Flipping, usually people are doing it for income. So you have full-time flippers, that's all they do. And I know people making, many hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. And that's all they do. They flip houses, they flip one house a month, they make a lot of money. And it's very, very good. Now, some people, and the way that I use flipping is I would flip a house in order to have down payments or a seed fund for for a rental. Lease option, which I did for 5 years. Typically, you're making 30,000, 60,000 or more, in BPM, down in Southern Florida, you're probably making a lot more than that. You also have to be really careful because lease option is the most market sensitive investment strategy out of these 4. So you can do everything right in lease option. If the market turns on you, you can still lose money and you do everything perfectly. Now, there are also tax benefits there. And then rentals, that's the way people typically build wealth. Of course, you have the income. If you have enough of these, enough of these $300 or $400 or $500, $600 a month positive cash flows, you got 10 or 20 of them, you can make a lot. But typically you're making $300 to $600 a month. And eventually, if you can do like what I did, which is buy, fix, rent, and sell, which is a hybrid between rentals and flipping, then you'll make 100,000 to 300,000 per house or even more, and their tax benefits. One of the videos in my course is called "Should I Flip, Rent, Wholesale, or Lease Option?" And I go through advantages and disadvantages and keys to success for all of those. But what I did recently, like 2 nights ago, is I created a custom GPT called the Real Estate Strategy Tailored for You. And for those of you who are familiar with ChatGPT, usually you have these 4 prompts. I just put 1 prompt in there. Help me choose between rentals, flipping, wholesale, lease option. And then what you do is when you get this, when you get access to this, you simply click on that and it'll come up with a bunch of questions. This is exactly, I know it's a lot to read here, so you don't really have to read it. But what it does, this is the exact prompt that it does. It says, "I'd be happy to help. Just give me information about your household income, net worth, credit score, skills, all the things we talked about before, age, and all this other kind of stuff." And and remember, I don't get to see any of this. I mean, this is not, nobody's collecting this data, or at least I'm not collecting the data. I don't have access to it. So what I did is I just took this, and just for the sake of just showing this here, what I did is I took this, I went and I looked at the medians. So remember we talked about the median household income is 80,610. I put that in there. Median net worth in the United States is 192,000. Median credit score is 691. The time that you can really, so here I just had to make an avatar of some hypothetical person. The time that a person can spend each week on real estate, I just said 10 hours. Relevant skills, I said, I don't have any skills, not construction, not sales, negotiation, none of that. Your comfort level of working with strangers, said, yeah, it's okay. I just chose age and life stage. I said, yeah, I'm 40 years old, mid-career in IT, whatever. Do I prefer active involvement or more passive income? That was the question that came up with. So more passive. Do I have access to any cash or financing? You have 50,000. And then what specific goals you're aiming for. So, you have to put in your stuff in this AI bot. And I just said, you know what? I'm 40 years old and I want $100,000 of passive income per year for early retirement, but I want to do it slowly without driving myself crazy. So this is not how fast can you do it in this case, because obviously, with AI, you can put anything you want. So it's this one, let's do it slowly. And here's what it came up with. So it came up with all kinds of narratives. I then asked it to put it into a table, and here it is. And you can see that it maxed out at 10 rentals because, I don't want to have more than 10 rentals. And then here's the cash flow, and then it goes up. And then there's a bunch of flips. There's actually 1 year they're not buying any houses. And then just flipping to continue to pay down debt. And then all of a sudden you've got 8,000 a month or more, 100,000 a year, because this person has to do it real slow. So now they'll be able to retire at age 53. You want to do this a lot faster? Do it faster. You can put in anything you want into this bot and into this the custom GPT. You put in your situation, and then it can come up with these things. So this is this is a way and again, you don't want to rely on AI totally. What you do is it's for an idea. It's just for it's to give you an idea, a thought process that you can go through. Okay, so let's get back to the efficient roadmap to the ultimate passive investor endgame. So we said there's financial viability, and that's when you have a job. Then there's financial freedom, right, where your passive income is greater than your routine household expenses with some cushion. And you can choose a 30% cushion, 50% cushion, 100% cushion, whatever you want. And then there's the ultimate, which is the financial and psychological freedom. So there's transitions. To go from financial viability, there's a transition to financial freedom, and then there's a transition from financial freedom to financial and psychological freedom. The best strategic decision I made in my life was to start in single family home investing. And because that's what got me from financial viability, where I was working just as a chemist, into financial freedom, where I could have the passive income to fund my lifestyle. So it was really crucial for me. I really didn't have, I don't see any other way. I did not see any other way of doing this. And today, nothing is trivial, but just in general, if you're looking, I don't want to say it's a slam dunk. Nothing is a slam dunk, but it is so predictable as long as you follow certain rules and you're disciplined. Like you don't buy raw, you buy right, which means you buy low. And you do your maximum allowable offer, and you do all the things that you probably know what to do. And if you're a newbie, well, you can get the course at the end of the evening and have all the information in there. But it was, I don't want to say it was easy, but to go, I just did once to either flips or rentals or lease options per year over those 11 years, and I was able to achieve financial freedom. Now, once I achieved financial freedom, then I also hit this magic golden ticket called the accredited investor, which today, and this could change in the future, there are two ways of measuring it. The way that I did it is by our net worth, excluding the equity in our primary residence, hit $1 million. And once that happens, a whole bunch of opportunities open up. And then you can then do private placements. Now you can do private placements before you hit accredited investor, but 95% of the best deals are out there for accredited investors. So the next best strategic decision I made was to exit single family home investing. So people say, well, if it was so good to get out of, why did you get into it in the first place? I could have not gotten to accredited investor status if I didn't get into single family home investing. And I only did that. I only accumulated properties for 11 years. And then I started divesting out of them and then transitioning into the private placements. In fact, in my history at age 30, my wife and we had one son at the time, we were under the federal poverty level, and then I got a job. As a matter of fact, you can see a picture of me when I was much thinner and I had more hair, and I actually had a job. I was director of research and development eventually, which is why I had a tie on. And I was doing my phase transcatalysis stuff, and I hit financial viability. And at age 50, I started really late. At age 50 is when I started active part-time real estate investing. And then by age 61, by doing only 1 to 2 per year, again, you could do it a lot faster. I just wanted to do it real slow because I didn't want to drive myself crazy. That's when I started to get into this to the private placement investing. I became a private placement investor because I didn't want to deal anymore. The part of psychological freedom is not having to manage humanoid life forms like tenants, contractors, code officials, property managers, or even employees. Okay, so now let's talk about advantages and disadvantages of part-time investing. Okay, and later we're going to go into I'm going to give you a lot of tips. Some of them the veterans will know. I bet you there are a couple that I'm going to talk about that veterans don't know. But first, this is more for the newer investors. And remember, if only 5 to 10% of RIA members are full-time investors, so this is relevant to the other 90 to 95% of you. Half of you are active part-time investors, and half of you may never buy a property. That's all another thing. But when we're talking about part-time real estate investing, most of you on this Zoom call have a job, whether you like it or not, enjoy your job or not. Well, that's you got a job. And when you have a job, then you can choose if you want to. So if you have a job, you don't have to invest to survive. And that taking that pressure off is a luxury that I really, really enjoy. Now, I was actually down, I would, when my father, my parents lived in Delray Beach, actually for quite a few years, and my father had a stroke, and then he had a heart attack, was 6 weeks later. And for the next 20 months, I actually went down. I flew into Fort Lauderdale uh, every month, and I was there for a week every month for 20 months, helping my parents recover from the whole situation. So I was able to back off a little bit on the real estate during those 20 months. So I could run hard, I could idle, I could do whatever I want, but it was my choice. So that's a major advantage. When a full-time investor, you need to keep all the balls up in the air. You need to keep all the plates spinning. So that's not easy to do. You just can't take off like that so easily when you're a full-time investor. Another thing is that if you have a job, you can get bank financing. Now, you don't need bank financing. You'll see a lot of full-time investors use private lending. I'll address private lending a little bit later, or even hard money. But if you have a job, your debt to income ratio is going to be good. So you could probably fund your first rental with just a regular bank loan, with an investor loan. And then if your cash flow is good enough, then you can get another one, another one, another one. And I guess before the financial crisis, I guess you can get 10 of them. Then it went down to 4. I think it's back up to 10 right now, but I'm not sure where is it right now. And again, I never wanted to have more than 10, and I maxed out at 9. So having a job is actually, and with part-time investing on the side, it's a good thing from the standpoint of being able to get financing. Here's another one. You can choose a primary occupation that you really enjoy. Let's say you don't like what you're doing right now, but you always wanted to be a photographer, or you wanted to be a baker, or you wanted to go back to school and get an MBA or something like that. You can use part-time investing as what I call a stepping stone occupation. Actually, this is a graphic out of my book, Now Be Happier, which I'm not selling tonight. I don't make a lot of money on it, so don't worry. I'm not supposed to sell things that are not, not part of it, but it's just a stupid little book. And so a stepping occupation goes like this. Let's say you have a current occupation that you don't particularly enjoy. And as current occupation, it's in red. What you do is you can choose a stepping stone occupation that you do part-time while you have your current occupation. Then when you get really good at it, as you can see here, the stepping stone, if you get really good at it to the point where you're making as much money, you can have full-time income from part-time investing, you can leave that stupid job or the boss or whatever it was, and then you can move forward to stage 2 and then stage 3. Because let's say you don't like real estate investing. I mean, I like the results of real estate investing, but I did not particularly enjoy dealing with the tenants and the contractors. Now, some of you do, and that's great. And if you love that, hey, all the power to you. That's really good. Everybody's different. One size does not fit all. So then, you can go from whatever, again, you have this current occupation, you add a part-time investing, get good at it to the point where you get full-time income from part-time investing. And then you go to stage 3, where you then start building your enjoyable occupation, which might be a side hustle that turns into a full-time. And if you want, you can get rid of the real estate investing. That was sort of my plan. In the end, I enjoy private placement investing so much that it's really, really great. I mean, I love the private placement investing. So I actually never got to stage 4. I'm still doing stage 3 because I love everything that I do. I love my job in breakthrough R&D, and I love the private placement investing. So I actually stuck around there. I just got rid of the flips and the rentals and the lease options. Here's another one, career insurance. So one of my sons are in their late 30s, early 40s, and they always worry, and they're both employed. They always worry, what if I get laid off? If you know how to flip houses, then even if you get laid off, you can always make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in a flip. You do that twice a year. You're not going to be destitute. You don't have to worry that much about getting laid off. I mean, it's not pleasant and it's going to be hard, but it's not like you're going to be homeless. So I see uh, knowing at least how to flip houses. And by the way, even if you're buying a rental, you're going to want to buy it and fix it anyway to create instant equity. Or and same with lease option. If you're a wholesaler, you got to be buying at well below market value. So once you know how to, buy a house, find a house, buy a house under, significantly under retail value, then you're creating instant equity, and now you've got a career insurance that you can always do this part-time investing, even if you don't enjoy it. If you enjoy it, hey, that's great. But if you don't enjoy it, hey, it's career insurance. And of course, you can do a slow career transition by choice. You don't have to quit your job cold turkey, and you don't have to risk most of your comfort zone. Now, you might not really, you might not enjoy what you're doing right now in whatever job it is, but you know how to do it, and it's been making enough money for you to survive, probably. If you're at the RIA, a lot of you are at the RIA because your job's okay. Maybe actually 52% of the people don't really like their jobs. It's of American adults. 14% love their jobs, like me. And the other in the middle, they sort of tolerate things. But at least even if you don't like what you're doing, you don't have to quit what you're doing because it's making just enough money for most of you to survive. So you can do a slow career change. And now this is going to be totally insulting. Let's see how many people are online. I can't see right now. I'm probably going to lose the full-time investors right now. I tell you, I would say half of the full-time investors that I would meet at our RIA, because I belong to the South Jersey RIA and also to the D, which is the Philadelphia RIA. Half of the full-time investors don't like their lives. They're running around like crazy. So I think that part-time investing is great because you don't need to feed the full-time real estate buying, selling, fixing, renting, wholesaling slavery machine 24/7, 365. I know I can't see how many people I'd lost right now because I just insulted 5 to 10% of our audience here. Some of you think it's a slavery machine, some of you don't. But that's okay. That's my bias. Here's another thing about part-time real estate investing. If you're a full-time investor and the market goes down, you can have a big problem because you're relying on, churning and burning. You rely on this. If you're a part-time investor, you're only looking for one good deal a year, maybe two. It doesn't matter if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. It's hard to buy, it's easy to sell. In a buyer's market, it's easy to buy, hard to sell. But no matter what market you're in, I think it's called the 3Ds: death, divorce, and disease. There's always people out there that have to sell their houses. And you're not taking advantage of them, you're solving their problem by taking their house so they don't have to worry about it. They can get debt relief or time relief and all those kind of good stuff. So no matter what kind of market you're in, whether it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, a balanced market, there's always distressed sales. And remember, we saw earlier, I think it was the second slide, there are about 300,000 flips going on every year, which was 7.2% of all the houses and condos sold in the United States in 2024. So somebody is buying those things. Why shouldn't it be you? Another great thing about part-time investing is you can build an outstanding retirement plan like I did, one brick at a time. And now I got out of the rentals and flips. Well, I do have 2 rentals left. But if you want to stay with rentals and flips to the day you die, be my guest. The rentals you can use as passive income and to build net worth, and the flips, you can use that for rental down payments. And if you pay off all your properties, you can use it for luxuries. It's interesting. College. So I know because I'm planning for my grandkids' college. They're going to college in 7-8 years. And we've actually done the calculation. If they go to a state college, it's about $40,000 a year. That's including tuition, room, and board. At $40,000 a year, hey, that's like one flip before taxes. Here's another thing about retirement. A lot of full-time investors say, "Yeah, I don't pay Social Security taxes. Yeah, I don't have to pay FICA. That's really great." You know what? You don't pay in, you don't get the money out. So think about this: every $1,000 a month of Social Security, that is passive income. That is truly passive income. So let's say you're going to be retired for 25 years. Okay, you retired at 65 and you go to age 90. That's 25 years, or 60 to 85, whatever it is. That's 25 years. That's 300 months. Every $1,000 a month that you get in Social Security, that's sort of the equivalent of $300,000 of net worth. And take a look at this: $1,000 a month if it means less tenants for the same passive income. So let's say you're making, I don't know, $500 a month on your rentals. Every $1,000 a month, you can get rid of 2 tenants. So if you're making, if you got $3,000 a month of Social Security, you can get rid of 6 tenants. And if you all together had 10 tenants, hey, that's happiness right there. I mean, unless you really enjoy, I'm not gonna, if I was in the room in person, I'd say, show of hands, how many of you just love dealing with your tenants? And some people do, but most of you don't. Self-directed IRA or 401k. This is a major advantage that I found in part-time investing. As a matter of fact, let me show you an example. So remember I showed you that flip before? That flip, and that's $82,000. I did all this in my self-directed Roth 401k. I'm a consultant. If I were to take the background off, you can see it as deep due diligence investors. But take the background off, you would see my part-time, my phase transfer catalysis business. The chemistry that I do. So I do consulting, and I've got an S corp. So S corp, I was able to set up a self-directed 401k. My 401k has no stocks in it. My 401k is totally invested in private placements. But before it was private placements, I was doing flips and rentals in my self-directed Roth 401k that I started at age 53. So here I did a flip. There was $82,000. I won't go until actually there's a one of the lectures is called Fund the Rental with the Flip. This one's from the Smarter Investing Uses Roth tracks. But I go into this where 2 weeks before I bought this house, I did a $75,000 Roth conversion, which was pretty cool. It cost me $22,000. And then I probably, with that $22,000 of cash that I had to shovel into the call box of the IRS, I have probably since saved at least $500,000 in taxes. But again, I can't cover everything in an hour and a half tonight. So we'll just have to forego that one for now. But anyway, I took this $82,000, turned it to 131, the flip. Then with that, I actually sat on it for a few months. I bought this rental. It was $80,000 to buy it. It was a state. It was in bad shape. It was $40,000 to repair, $5,000 for buying costs and holding costs. And then I had cash flow of $1,200 a month. And because it was free and clear. And then I held on to that, let's see, from 17, about 4.5 years. And then I sold it. And the total proceeds was $293,000. But I had a tenant. So what was interesting is I then so I went from a flip to a rental to a private placement, which was land development lending fund, and I was getting 12%. So what I did is I took 250,000 out of the 293, and I put it in at 12%. So now I doubled my cash flow from 1,200 a month to 2,500 a month, and I got rid of a tenant legally and ethically. That was pretty cool, and I still had 43,000 left over. And then what I did about a year ago, I decided, hey, I got to know the land developer himself, or actually the company, and I actually took out 200,000 of this 250,000 that was generating 30,000 a year, and I put it at 20%. Then I started generating 40,000 a year. As a matter of fact, today's June 4th. Tomorrow, June 5th, I'm getting $20,000. So I get $20,000 twice a year, and tomorrow it's going to be hitting my account another 20,000 in my Roth tax free. So, let me just go back to the previous slide for a second. If you take a look with these 3 transactions in this track, and I call this a track. A track is a sequence of real estate deals. So it's one flip, one rental, and a private placement. So this is a 3-deal track. If you take a look at the compounded annual growth rate from the flip to the private placement, it was a 26% compounded annual growth rate that throws off 38% dividend relative to the $82,000. So I'm not doing a lot of work here. I mean, actually, the contractor did all the work for the flip, to fix the rental. I just had to find the deal, fund the deal with my self-directed 401k, which Roth 401k that came actually from my 401k, and I did a Roth conversion. So it's pretty cool when you can get a 26% compounded annual growth rate and 38% cash dividend, tax-free, and then of course you turn the 2,500 a month, which is 30,000 a year, into 40,000 a year, and I still had another $50,000 to play with. So this is a track, and then what you do just do multiple tracks. So track 1, track 2, track 3. Actually, I did 4 tracks. So you flip a house, you then put the money into a rental, you make more money, then you put it into a private placement, and then you have what's called a preferred return, and then you exit and you get a boatload of money. So it's really not that much of a problem as a part-time investor using tracks to generate more than $10,000 a month of passive income and more than $1 million of net worth. Actually, in 2 million and 3 million. And actually, it's funny because when you get to $2 million, if your return on investment is only 5% a year, you're increasing your net worth or your cash flow by $100,000 a year. So once you get to that magic number, like when your net worth is 500,000, then to go up by 100,000, you need to do 20%. But once you're like at 2 million, and then 3 million, you only do 3%. So it really gets a lot easier as your net worth goes up. And the way to do this is, so part-time real estate investing is a really, I don't want to say it's an easy way, but it's if you know what you're doing, if you learn how to do it right and you're disciplined and you make good decisions, then you can get there. By the way, what if you don't have a Roth? Then this is I take this from another one of my presentations on how to achieve psychological freedom. So I had these 3 rentals, and I had one of them. I think I bought this one in 2010, towards the end of the downturn, and this one I bought, I think, in 2014, and this one I bought in 2008. So this went all the way down and then back up again. And I just didn't want to manage tenants anymore. So what I did is I sold this rental here. It was in Williamstown, and I sold this rental in Sicklerville. And then I had 76,000. I know because I do this in QuickBooks, and this is regular money. So this is not, there's a mortgage. This is not Roth. This is like real, just regular money. The kind of money. It's not the magical Roth money. This is actual regular money. So the pre-tax was 76,764, and this one, the proceeds were 81,219. And then I took the equity proceeds, paid again, that's not including the cash flow. And then I paid some tax, paid off the mortgage on rental property number 3. So now I will go from 3 tenants to 1 tenant, and I still have good cash flow. And then I said, screw that, and I seller financed it to the tenant. So I got 20,000 cash at closing. I seller financed a note for $200,000, and I still had a good cash flow. And then I probably sold it at the wrong time, not the wrong time. I sold it at a time that was good for the tenant buyer, who is now the buyer, who's now the owner, because at this point I don't have any tenants. I got rid of 3 tenants, and I still have good cash flow. They simply refinanced out the mortgage, paid off my 200,000, and then I put that into a private placement that's doing extremely well. Which I don't manage at all. Another advantage of part-time real estate investing: one spouse does real estate and one spouse not. So my wife's a teacher. So once my wife's teaching income started getting to the point where she was making like 75% of what we needed for our household expenses, I only had to cover 25% with my stupid consulting. Not stupid, I love what I was doing. And then I could invest the rest of my time doing real estate investing and playing all these kind of games. It was really cool. Now here's another one. One rental, when your child is born, pays for college. You do the calculation, and by the time you look at the cash flow and the increase in appreciation, and yeah, markets go up, markets go down, but over 18 years, you get one rental. How many kids you want to plan? Just buy that many rentals and just keep the money for that. You remember, you're a part-time investor, so you're making money from your full-time job. And then the one which I like the best is the Life by Design. That is my lazy boy. I actually amortize it over 3 years because I invest 10 to 14 hours a day in that lazy boy for years and years. Actually, since 1995, every 3 years, actually, my company, one of my companies pays for a new lazy boy, and I sit there 10 to 14 hours a day watching Andy Griffith and Star Trek and all this other kind of stuff while creating content in chemistry, investing, and psychology, because that's the way I want to live my life. But there are disadvantages. If I'm a scientist, I can't just talk about the advantages. I have to talk about disadvantages. So there are disadvantages to part-time real estate investing. The first is time. Until you figure it out, it takes some time. So you better learn how to do things right. But then once you figure it out, of course, it's only 1 to 2 hours per week in most weeks for up to 10 rentals after you figure it out. But until you figure it out, it's going to take some time. So you're going to have to make some effort. And then when you're doing renovations, it's up to about 5 hours per week when you're doing renovations, unless you're going in there painting and fixing stuff yourself. Thankfully, I don't know how to fix stuff myself. That was a major advantage. I outsourced all that, called MWAs, minimum wage activities. And you need to learn new skills like finance. And finance is usually the number one barrier. When I wrote the book with my co-author in 2008 called We Buy Houses Sometimes, then the number one, there were 11 barriers to buying your first or next investment property, which we talk about and actually have a lecture on that. And the number one barrier is financing. But there are many solutions. And of course, if you're part-time investing, there's a bank. You can also do private lending. There's hard money, and of course, self-directed IRAs. But you need to learn how to do financing, and you need to learn how to rehab using other people, not other people's money. Well, yes, other people's money, but other people. You have to learn how to manage contractors. And you'd be surprised. There are good contractors out there. You have to find them and develop relationships with them. You have to learn about landlording, and there's all kinds of other skills, but they're all learnable. So now I'm dating myself because they haven't had this commercial on TV for probably 20 or 30 years. What would you do for our Klondike bar? And what you need to do is you need to learn how to do it. So how do you learn this stuff? Well, I am not selling right now. There's going to be a lot more good stuff over here, but we do have this 27.5 hour home study course called the Smarter Investing Home Study Course. Don't tune out right now, because what I'm going to be showing for the rest of the time that we have here is I'm going to be showing valuable concepts, how to be efficient with time and money. I can't go the whole 27.5 hours. I'm going to go through as much as I can until they pull the hook on me. But these are slides from the Smarter Investing Home Study Course. By the way, just so you should know what is in this course, there's a Smarter Strategy module, flipping module, rentals and landlording module. There's a funding module. Now, strategy is very important. More than 50% of our performance in life, whether it's marriage or public speaking or real estate or anything that you do, more than 50% of our performance in life depends on a handful of strategic decisions we make. And less than half of our performance in life depends on how well we do our tactical execution. But most people invest 99.9% of their time on optimizing tactical execution. You like how to optimize conquering that hill, and then when you get to the top of the hill, you realize it was the wrong hill. So it's really, really important to first choose the right strategy. So I have these 3 lectures. They're all an hour to hour and a half each. How to achieve financial freedom through successful part-time investing. Should I flip, rent, wholesale, lease options? Smarter investing uses Roth tracks. And then the flipping module, there's the essentials, and I'm going to show some slides from how to choose renovations for profitable flips and rentals, and some specialized things improving ROIs. How to choose house for rentals. I'm going to show you an AI bot that I created for this about a month ago. How to screen, manage, and choose the best tenants. How to improve ROI for rentals, and then the funding about leveraging of OPM. By the way, I can prove that other people's money is addictive. Once you make money using other people's money, the first time it's addictive. How can I prove it? Say the letters OPM 5 times fast. OPM, 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 opium, opium. That as soon as you start making money using OPM, you're addicted, because it's a great thing. Fund the rental to flip, self-directed IRAs, private lending. And then there's also the optimizing module, how to choose between a flip and a rental. That is not easy. So and I've never seen anybody else talk about this before. So let's say you find a really good deal. Should I flip it or should I rent it? Because no matter what, I'm creating a lot of equity. So I go through, it's pretty involved. So if you don't like arithmetic, that means you don't like money, and you probably is wrong business. I have a lecture called Wholesaling from a Buyer's Perspective. I'm going to show one of the slides from that. Should a real estate investor get a real estate license? Effective market cycle and real estate investment strategy. Very, very important, because some real estate investment strategies are more market sensitive than others. 4 considerations when creating a legacy using real estate investing. I'm going to show a slide from that in a few minutes. And then the Smarter True Passive Investing module, how, why, and when to exit single family home rentals. This is something nobody talks about at RIAs, because everybody's talking about how to build empires, and I like the opposite. And then I do have a lecture here about passive private placements, which is high ROI alternative real estate investments that are truly 100% passive. So let's show you some slides from this. Here's this one of the lectures. It's an hour and 8 minutes. How to effectively choose repairs. I just want to show you one crucial slide from this. And this is a thing that I invented in 2011. At the bottom, it was the worst time in recent history in the market was the winter between 2011 and 2012. And I developed it. I did an experiment because I'm a scientist, so I did an experiment. I consider the Gloucester County and Camden County in our South Jersey to be a laboratory where I can do experiments. I did an experiment, and I concluded the following. I came up with a thing called the Halpern emotional scoring system, and here's the way it works. When somebody walks through a house, and the veterans, you'll be able to figure this out. You'll identify with this immediately. When the thing to do is to observe buyers and renters, prospects, when they walk through the house. So when they walk through the front door, they don't know what to expect. I mean, they've seen the pictures online, but my thesis here is that you have to evoke a positive emotional response in the buyer or the prospective tenant in the first 3 rooms, top 4 rooms. That's what you have to do. And so what I do is I observed a lot of people walking through the houses. I also observed when my contractors first walk through, before we start renovating, and their girlfriends, or if it's a girl, then the boyfriend. And I watch how they walk through the house. Are they going to the right or the left? Are they going upstairs, whatever? And what I concluded by watching people is that you watch what you determine what are the first 3 to 4 rooms that they're going to see. This is the room number scene, and you want to quickly make it pop. You want the best quality at that price point. You want the first 3 rooms to be better than any other house, which is one reason why I got a real estate license, so I can see all the other houses that are on the market for rent and for sale. And I want people to get to the point. So in the first 3 rooms, I arbitrarily chose this number 50, that up to 50 people are. So here's the psychology. People walk into the house and they're looking for reasons to buy the house or rent the house. And if you can evoke a positive emotional response by doing renovations that are really impressive, then people will get to the point and say, oh, I love this house. So if tenants walk in and they don't say, wow, or oh my God, they're not getting the house. They don't know that yet. But I wanted to be really impressed with this. And the same with buyers. And at some point in those first 3 rooms, sometimes 4, they change their mindset from, why should I buy this house, to, boy, what is there a reason not to buy the house? And I'm not going to use the F word here because I'm from South Jersey, but if they don't fornicate up the rest of the house, then the house is sold or people are going to want to get to it. So basically, you don't want to screw up the rooms after, so people at the beginning say, why should I buy the house? And then once you evoke the positive emotional response, people say, is there a reason why I shouldn't buy the house? So after that, then it has to be crisp, clean, and functional. And I did an experiment with a bathroom that had a black tub and a black toilet and grab bars from the 85-year-old guy that I bought it from when he was going into the nursing home. And I left it the way it was. I just cleaned it up a little bit. And so they say kitchens and bathrooms sell. Well, I submit for your consideration and do an experiment sometimes. I believe that for median price houses, I'm not talking about luxurious houses, that kitchens do sell, but bathrooms don't. So I did an experiment where I didn't renovate the bathroom. I cleaned it up, but I didn't renovate the bathroom. And people will go, because people are one of the first 2 rooms is not the master bath, but kitchens are very impressive. Master baths don't have to be, unless that's standard for the, you have to look at the price point. So this is called the Halpern emotional scoring system. And if you do get the course, you'll see I go through an entire house, all the rooms, what the before, the after, and what the emotional score is, and all that. So just something to think about. For how to choose houses for rentals, I have a 9-step process. It's a little bit different than what most people do. So the first thing that I do, step 1, I'm not going to go through all 9 steps. I'm just going to go through a couple of steps here. But the very first crucial strategic decision that I made years ago is I looked to see. So a lot of the rentals are in the lower income. These are not lower class people. It's a low income class. Now the cash flow, I put it in quotation marks because people think the cash flow is really high, but by the time you take into account vacancy, repairs, and admin costs, it's usually not that high. So I do not buy in the lower income class neighborhoods. I also don't buy in the upper income class neighborhoods because cash flow is very low. I like the working class and the middle class. Why? Because the working class and middle class, they have some cushion for hardship. If the transmission goes on their car, they don't have to make a choice between fixing their car or paying the rent, because if they don't fix their car, well, they can't go to work, they can't pay the rent. So I like to work in the, so what I do is I look at the median household income, and I really study that a lot. And I look at I look at the median household income, divide that by 3, so I can and then I identify the neighborhood. So the next thing, oh yeah, so I then created a tool called the Cash Flow Zip Code Finder. It's really cool. You can do this. I used to have a whole thing that would take me hours and hours, but now it's gonna be done in minutes. And if you notice again, I don't have 4 prompts. I just have the one. What you do, you click on this and you just click on it. And then all you have to do is put in your county name and a comma and then FL for Florida. And then it'll do an analysis that I programmed in where it looks at 5 different it looks at 5 different parameters. And so in this case, I just did this for the county where I actually made $1 million in with the 10 houses, the 10 rentals and 6 flips I did in Sicklerville, which is 08081. And today the median home price is there. There's the median, all this kind of stuff. And then I look at the rent to price ratio, and then the school quality and the crime rate. And then I have a whole bunch of deal breakers like, flood zones and all kinds of other stuff. And then what this thing does is that it just spits this thing, it spits out this table, which is pretty cool. And it also gives the rest of it. I don't want to print out all of it, but it also gives the justifications for all the different zip codes and why it's good, why it's bad. And then it does put the high crime areas at the bottom, and then it's prioritized a certain way. So when you get the course, you'll get access to this AI tool, which is pretty cool. And then once you then have your zip code, that's not enough, because within the zip code, now you have maybe 100 different subdivisions or neighborhoods in that zip code. Then what you do, then you want to choose the subdivision within that zip code. And then I'm always looking at, let's say solid working class subdivisions there. That's what the rent is. And we do that. And then you look at the median household income. Then you always want to buy low, right? You always want to buy below retail, so that you're creating some instant equity. And even if there's a bad market, as long as your positive cash flow is good, you can keep on going. And then there's a whole bunch of other steps. Again, I can't go into the whole thing because I have 24 lectures that I want to have a little bit from, not each one, but from a whole bunch of them. But one thing which I do want to mention is that vacancy repairs and admin costs, or VRA, are crucial, because typically that will reduce your cash flow. If all you're looking at is PITI, which is the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and subtracting that from your rent, you're getting this gross number. And if it's $300 a month, that's a problem, because the VRA, the vacancy repair and admin costs, are typically between $150 and $250 a month per door. So you want to be able to figure out how to calculate your vacancy repairs and admin costs. And in the course, I go through this where I show, and it's very, very simple, how you can calculate, even if you have only 5 rentals, how you can calculate your historical average for vacancy, right? You look at how many months. So here's a case where there's 5 rentals. You bought one 10 years ago, 4 years ago. You bought one 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago. You look at how many rental months you have altogether. You look at how many vacant months, and that's economic vacancy, not physical vacancy. You divide the number, you get your vacancy rate. And I remember when I did this exercise, I said 4.1%. I'm doing actually pretty well. Why is it so high? Well, I looked at my vacancy rate from the first 7 years that of the 11, and it was 5.7%. Then I got a lot better tenant screening, and then my vacancy rate was down to 2.9%. So I go through all this in that particular course, and that's why. How do you get better at screening tenants? Well, I have this hour-and-a-half lecture where I have a whole lot of different really good stuff. As a part-time investor, I can't invest the time, so I have to be extremely efficient with my time, how I manage tenants. So this is an extremely long, I apologize for the long title, but it's how to establish acceptable standards of behavior with tenants, tenant buyers, other people's children, and other humanoid life forms. And it's interesting, because as landlords, who do we give money? We give money to a boatload of all kinds of different people. And where do we get the money from? Tenants. That's all we get it from, just tenants. So boy, it's really important to choose your tenants right. And I go through all that in that particular hour-and-a-half lecture. But just a few things. As a part-time investor with less than 10 rentals or less, I would never outsource tenant approval to anyone else. If you got 100 doors, well, it might be harder to do. But when you choose the best tenants, you live a much lower stress life, and you also have better cash flow, because Nothing kills cash flow higher than tenant turnovers. One tenant turnover, you can easily wipe out a year of cash flow. Just one little tip. If there's one thing that you're looking for, it's going to be stability. So stability in their job or stability in a house or something. There's other kinds of stability, but fair housing laws actually prohibit you from asking those kind of questions. But here's just a few little tips. I do a lot of neurolinguistic programming, and one of them that I do is I tell them when they're walking through the house, this is before they, when they're still prospects, I say, I hold myself to a high standard of accountability, as you can see by looking at the walls and the floors and all the beautiful stuff that I do. I hold my tenants to the same standard of accountability. So the professional tenants, they're going to be scared by this, and they're going to go to some other landlord. Another thing that's really important is the first late fee. Very, very, very important. People say, well, it's the first time, I'll let it go. No, 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 no. You have to train them. You have to establish acceptable standards of behavior. The first late fee is the most important one to enforce, because you're psychologically profiling yourself that you're going to be compromising the whole time. But if you psychologically profile yourself as somebody who doesn't compromise, that's important. And by the way, the best application question that I stumbled upon once I started using clearnow.com for my rentals that I still use today is, are you willing to pay your rent by automatic withdrawal from your account? And why is that? Because in one of these lectures that I have called Understand and Improve ROI for Rentals, let's look at this. First of all, I'm going to ask you this question. Out of the general population, do you think that tenants are in the top 10% of the population when it comes to math skills? The other question is, do you think that your tenants are in the top 10% of the population when it comes to money management? Those are rhetorical questions. The answer is, of course not. But here's what we're doing. Half of my tenants always got paid biweekly, which is every other Friday, which means 26 pay periods per year. But we, as landlords, we say, well, the rent is due on the 1st. Okay, so we're asking people who are not great in math and not great at managing money to convert 2.2 pay periods into one rental payment so I can pay my mortgage on time. What are we, nuts? Of course it's going to be a problem. So there's a tenant that's still with me today. They bought the house in 2005. First year they didn't have any late payments, but then they started getting late payments. And in 2012, 13, or 14, they had 4 late payments a year. You can say, whoa, I love late fees. Yeah, I don't want the late fee. I just want, I want a simple life. I'm a part-time investor. I have stuff that I have to do. I don't want to worry about late fees. I want things to be on time. So what I did in November of 2014, I then decided, since they're getting paid biweekly, let me take my rent biweekly, and then by ACH, by automatic clearinghouse. It gets automatically withdrawn from their account, automatically deposited to my account. I don't have mailbox money anymore because I don't have to go to the mailbox. I don't want to get up my lazy boy, go all the way to the mailbox and have to run to the bank with a check, for heaven's sakes. That's a lot of work. It's too much work. I mean, I gotta gain weight. People said I need growth. They didn't say I didn't have to have radial growth, and that's part of the problem when you eat chocolate and Fritos all day and a lazy boy watching TV. So what I did is, there's no more mailbox money. Because it now goes automatic withdrawal from their account, automatic into mine. And by the way, when you put on your rental application, are you willing to have your rent automatically withdrawn from your account? Then here's what they're saying. If they say yes, then what they mean is, I have great confidence in my rental income. It's in my income. You can ask them all day long, how stable is your job? But boy, if they say they're willing to have their rent automatically deducted from their bank account every 2 weeks or every month or every 15th and 30th of the month, that tells you right there subliminally that they have confidence in their income. So now every other Tuesday, so they get paid every Friday, every other Tuesday, the rent comes out. So what I do is I match the rent payment schedule to the tenant income schedule. If they get paid monthly, yeah, they pay monthly rent. If it's semi-monthly, like teachers and cops, then they get paid on the 15th and 30th. Then the rent comes out on the 3rd and 17th. And if it's bi-weekly, it's every other Tuesday. And it's 100% passive, not just for me, but it's for the tenant. Oh, they don't have the envelope, they don't have a check, they don't have a stamp, whatever. Forget about all that. If they have income that's reliable, it's all automatic and it's great. And my tenant that had 4 late payments a year for those previous 4 years They have not had a late payment since November of 2014. And we are now in what? In June of 2025. It's been 11 years, 10 and a half years, not one late payment. Okay, wholesaling from a buyer's perspective, I think I'm probably going over my time here, so I won't go through all this. I will say that the newbie wholesalers make 6 mistakes. They overestimate repairs, they overestimate ARV, underestimate repairs because what do they know about? If you haven't done 3 flips of $30,000 each, how can you estimate repairs? And then there's all kinds of other stuff. So I won't go into that right now. I do want to cover a little bit leverage of OPM. I have no idea how many people I'm losing here, but I'm going to take that chance. Hopefully, I'm providing information that's valuable here. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly in real estate investing. Leverage of OPM. Good leverage builds wealth, generates positive cash flow. Most importantly, it weathers downturns. Bad leverage is very insidious. It looks like great leverage until there's a downturn. Now, we haven't had a downturn in a while, but 2008 to 2011, a lot of my friends went bankrupt. Some went to prison because they lost everything. In order to figure out how much is optimal leverage, in my never humble opinion, I don't say what you have to do. I'm suggesting for your consideration. This is what I did. You look at what's called portfolio-wide leverage. Portfolio-wide leverage is you take all your debt, that's all your personal debt, your business debt, everything, and look at your total assets. And you take your total debt divided by your total assets, and you get a number called portfolio-wide leverage. It's not just your rentals, it's everything. And in this case, I just showed this for a part-time investor with 5 working class rentals. You can see there's everything in their student loans and HELOCs and credit cards. And on the assets, you got IRAs, you get your cars, you got gold and silver coins, you got all this stuff. And then what you do is you divide that number. And then what I submit for your consideration, and this is not investment advice because I'm not licensed investment advisor, I'm a chemist. Never take advice from a PhD organic chemist on these things. But what I suggest for your consideration is that beginners should not really go beyond 70, 75% leverage because the markets have fallen 30% before. Actually, in the other side of Florida, I think it was Cape Coral, it was just in 2008, 2011, it was like some of the worst. It was terrible. So, and if you want to do 80% portfolio leverage, boy, you got to really pray that that the market is not going to crash. But for most of investing life, 40 to 60% might be good. In retirement, you might want to go all the way down to 0 or less than 40%. I'm not going to go into private lending. I probably told too many stories, so I'm just going to keep on going here. I do want to mention this one. This is pretty important, especially for those of you who are getting towards the end. This is a presentation called 4 Considerations When Creating a Legacy Using Real Estate Investing. This one I actually put together during COVID. And I just want to talk about number 3. For those of you who say, oh, yes, I'm going to build this empire. I'm going to leave 47 rentals to my kids so they'll be set. For those of you who know Three's company, that's Furley over there. Do you think that your kids want to own 47 rentals? Just think about that for a second. Do your heirs have the skills or even the desire to manage rentals and tenants? So what I did, among other things, is I transferred most of my investments to private placements. And this is actually a slide that Anish and Alexa saw on the National RIA Cruise. These are the snapshot of my, and this is just my Roth. These are 12 in my Roth. So I see the apartments, self-storage fund, land development, farm in Paraguay, resort in Belize, mobile home parks, triple net lease, light industrial sale leasebacks, a litigation fund. I put some money in there, 100,000, bridge loans, some medical devices, and I'm getting into a few other things. I'm getting to senior housing. All of this, these are private placements where I do not do any of the work. I do not get any of the phone calls. All I do is the deep due diligence before I buy, and then I send it somewhere else. So this is my portfolio just in my Roth, and there's a lot of asset protection here. So I don't say what I have typically, but it's in my Roth. So even if somebody puts a target on my back to say, oh boy, we're going to attack Mark because he's loaded or something like that, this is in my Roth, self-directed Roth 401k. So it's tax-free, but it has a significant amount of asset protection. And I'm not going to explain the significance of before the Fed rate increase and after, but it's important. And then, by the way, when you do get the Smarter Investing Home Study course, there's a bonus module called the Prosperity and Happiness module, how to measure and set achievable goals for simultaneous happiness and prosperity. There's decision-making, happiness, and lifestyle aspects of real estate investing. Self-image tune-up. This is probably the most important lecture that I've got. I've done this 200 times live in person in the United States, Europe, and Asia. By the way, in my FACE Transcat business, I've actually given invited lectures in 300 cities in 39 countries. So this part-time investing stuff, national speaker, I'm an international speaker in my primary occupation. But this one, the self-image tune-up, it's good for teenagers. It's good for all kinds. It's just a bonus that's thrown in there. And I also have a short lecture called Overcoming Barriers to Buying Your First and Next Investment Property. Just one slide from that is fear, the fear of losing money, fear of the house won't sell, aversion to risk. The solution, it's unbelievably simple. If you are disciplined enough to always buy low and be the best house at the price point, not in the universe or in the galaxy, but at the price point, you are minimizing risk. You're minimizing the ability to lose money. And it doesn't guarantee it, but boy, you're really minimizing it. And that should help you overcome fear. And again, I'll just have 2 slides here and then a couple of comments that I'll be finishing up. So when you do buy the Smart Investing Home Study course, you do get access to these custom GPTs or agents or whatever, bots, whatever you want to call them, the real estate strategy that's tailored for you, and the cash flow zip code finder. And the real estate strategy tailored for you, I just came up with that one about 36 hours ago. And I did that because in preparation for this meeting here. So there's all the stuff, all the 27 and a half hours of streaming video, you get this, and you get the 2 bots basically. And if you go to the website, it's $1,197. And then for you guys, it's $997. So I'm not going to go through a whole sales pitch. That's just basically it. And if you want to get it tonight, there you got the BPM RIA QR code. So that's there. You can do the QR code. And that's pretty much the sales pitch. I mean, I really, the way I look at it is like this. You either see value in my approach, which is very analytical, and it's very detailed, and I talk about thought process, or you don't see the value in that. If you don't see the value, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure that, BPM Rio would like you to buy these things. To me, it's not going to make a difference. This is not my primary source of income or secondary, tertiary, or quaternary. I do want to just mention a couple of things here. That is, you are there, there's the dot, you are here, and the goal is that dot in the right side. And your goal is full-time income from part-time investing, and you have a choice. You can go directly, or you can go the red, and so you can plan and take action. What did you do in the last year? Did you make effort, maybe going in the wrong direction? What about the year after that? I love this one where people say, this, I remember, I'm not going to say the name of the guru, but this was maybe 15 years ago, said, if you don't have cash and you don't have credit, wholesaling's for you. People say, oh, I don't have cash, I don't have credit, wholesaling's for me, but you don't know how to estimate repairs, you don't know how to estimate RV, you don't have a buying machine, you don't have a selling machine, you don't have all these things, you don't know, you don't have the right contracts. So now what? And then people, they keep on going, and each one of these is a year. So another year, another year, another year, another year, another year, another year, and eventually you get there. And people say, so you have a choice. You can have years of perseverance. I'm on Facebook, and people say the number one key to success is perseverance. Bullshit. If you don't have a friggin' plan and you don't know the most efficient way to get from A to B, then you need perseverance just to get there. So just don't waste all those years. Just do what you need to do. Take action. I can't guarantee that my home study course is going to do what you want, but it'll probably do this. Can you solve the income inequality for yourself, your personal solution, by doing part-time investing? Yeah, that's what I did. And again, I was in the federal poverty level. It sort of worked. Don't waste 1 to 2 decades of your life. You get what do you have? 3 decades, 4 decades of a really good run, maybe 5. People are wasting 1 to 2 decades. So your choice, path A, path B, there you go. And I'm going to shut up at this point.
Mark, I do have some questions in the Q&A. Do you mind if we run through a couple?
Sure. As hard it is to get me to talk, yes, I will be here until the internet runs out of room of storage. So I'll be here forever. Go ahead.
If you want, you could still leave share your screen with the QR code, unless Alexa
Oh,
has
okay.
something. Unless
Oh,
the one you
yeah,
got.
it's better than seeing my face, for heaven's sakes.
Just because I just got a message, someone asking me. Okay, so Wayne's asking, hello, Mark. For tenants, do you ever rent to tenants with Section 8 subsidies or only tenants who pay cash? I agree that choosing the right tenant is of the utmost importance. And he said your presentation is great also. So Section 8 or non-Section 8 with your tenants?
That's an excellent question. So I need to answer it. I'm not going to answer it as a Florida person. I'm going to answer it as New Jersey. In New Jersey, it's illegal to say no to Section 8. One of the protected classes we have in New Jersey is source of income. Section 8 is source of income. We cannot. So people would ask me how to, and I used to have a real estate license for 18 years. I did it only. I didn't sell houses to people. I wanted for myself. And people said, well, you don't accept Section 8. I said, no, I will accept an application from anybody. But because I like to have my tenants, and also if you get my bot there, when you get it, if you buy the course, then I like to have my tenants have an income in the range of 80,000 to 120,000. And so if they have an income of 80,000, they don't usually qualify for Section 8. So I never say no to Section 8. I'll say anybody can apply, but the kind of neighborhoods that I would go for would typically so because of the so I'm looking for a certain rental. I'm looking for a certain income where they have enough cushion that if their transmission goes, they can still pay the rent. That's number one. So and those incomes are going to have the right kind of neighborhoods that typically are not Section 8 neighborhoods. So and the other thing is that those neighborhoods also over the long term have appreciation. So if you're going to the war zones, then the war zones don't have anywhere near the kind of appreciation that we had in the neighborhoods that I was in. So if I held on to like the property that I bought, that I still have that tenant in there in 2005, I bought that property in the middle of a seller's market. You couldn't get any discount. It was worth 180,000. Today it's worth 380,000.
Yeah.
And it's a single family home, 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath, I think 1,500 square feet. So, but if I would have bought that in a war zone, it would have not gone up by $200,000. And they already paid. I did the calculation about 5 years ago. They paid $380,000 in rent, and that was 5 years ago. So, Section 8 in New Jersey, we can't say no to Section 8.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
really didn't answer the question. That's
no,
just
well,
my bias.
well, I mean, you can't say no here either. I guess it just depends, like exactly what you said is, if it's higher end neighborhoods, they probably won't qualify for Section 8, or it won't match, is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, but I
Is
also
the
don't go for the 200,000 a year of income, because
Yep.
the probability that we're going to find people that really want to rent homes is low. So
Yeah.
for me, I like the 80,000 to 120,000, maybe 130,000 range, but not a
Yep.
whole lot, not more than 150. But I don't like
Yep.
the $50,000.
Yeah,
I
there's
like to go
nothing that
median household
yeah.
income and higher.
Perfect. Alyssa's asking, how did you find all your flips and rentals?
So that's a really, really great question. So there's a whole lot of different ways. And remember, I started buying in 2005, and it's really hard for you guys to remember. Some of you maybe weren't born. Now you guys were probably born. 2005, 6, 7, 8 were years of explosive 20, 30% per year appreciation. It was really, really hard to find deals, but there are always deals out there. What I did is I did two things. In the beginning, I did postcard campaigns until I got tired of answering the phone. But then I just got a real estate license. So if you get the course, there's a thing in there about how to, should a real estate investor get a license or not? And there's 7 pros and 4 cons. And the 7 pros greatly for me outweighed the 4 cons. Like that was like a slam dunk for me. And once I was an agent, then I had a lot of access to information. And I have to say that out of the 16 houses that I bought, I'm guessing 12 or so were REOs or HUD homes. HUD homes don't even exist anymore,
Yeah.
but REOs and so it's bank owned homes, which is usually good, and the worse shape they're in, the better. And then I think 2 were maybe from estates, and I think I bought 1 at auction.
Okay. Yep.
But
So I got it.
but not typically not off MLS, unless it was like an estate or as an REO on MLS, and most people don't want to buy those.
Yep. I got a question here. It says, I know it's uncertain, but I heard that Trump is going to do away with IRAs. Any thoughts? I actually haven't heard that, but I'm curious to
So I know the answer to that for sure, but my crystal ball's in the shop. Why is my crystal ball in the shop? Because good crystal has lead, and we all know that lead is regulated by the EPA. So until Trump gets rid of lead, my crystal ball's in the shop, and I don't know it. But here's what I think: the real estate markets, regardless of who is in, I mean, if you take a look, I mean, I started buying who was it was Bush was president, and then Obama, and then whatever, all these different, the markets behave the way the markets behave, and a lot is driven by demographics. So, like, for example, right now, there's a huge shortage. One reason why I'm into land development is that there's a huge shortage of homes. Builders stopped buying between 2000, a building between 2008 and 2011. A shortage happened. There's about 6 million homes. We have 1.1 million households are formed every year because 25, 30 years ago, people fornicated and created these households that are today. And then, so those people need homes, and the builders can only build 1.5 million per year, but there was a deficit. So we need to, so what I'm trying to say is that demographics and previous things that happen in the market are determining what's happening in the market. And if Trump does this or does that, I don't think it's going to affect. The other thing is that I cannot imagine that any politician is be able to get rid of IRAs and 401ks and self-directed and all this other kind of stuff. In fact, there was a during the Biden administration, and by the way, I dislike both parties equally. Not equally; they're both whatever.
Well, you hate people.
So, yeah, well, yeah, I'm not a people. If I was a people person, I wouldn't be a chemist, for heaven's sakes. I mean, you know, I'm genetically incapable of having social skills just based on my profession. But people talking about, oh, they're going to do away with the Roth, and then all these things are going to happen. And in the end, it was between Christmas and New Year's in the second to last year of the Biden administration, where they actually said no more. You don't have to have RMDs anymore for self-directed Roth 401ks. Because I've set up all kinds of self-directed IRAs 5 years before I turned 70 and a half, because I figured you have to have RMDs. So is someone going to screw around with self-directed IRAs and 401ks? I mean, who has it? Not the Section 8 people. It's the people who, it's the landlords. Man, yeah, I don't think Trump is going to mess with IRAs and 401ks. Do I know that for sure? No, I don't, because my lead-based crystal ball's in this shop. That's a stupid. That's a chemistry joke.
That always comes up all the time, and these are obviously just opinions from Mark and myself. I don't think anything's going to happen at all when it comes to that either. There's just too, like, it'd be a panic. There's too much money in the IRAs, but that's a whole nother kind of chat that we that we could probably have a 45-minute.
Let's just assume for a second that IRAs would be wiped out, and or there'd be some major change.
Yeah.
Just imagine what would happen. Forget about real estate. What would happen to the stock market? You make a change to IRAs, and that's going to cause people to want to sell. Holy crap! That would be a massive. It would be massive. It's like I dare you, like, hold my beer. You know, it's like mess with IRAs. Sure, that's it could happen. A lot of stuff's happening that are taking us by surprise. It could happen, but boy, I think there's a limit to how much self-sabotage any administration can do.
So all I got to tell you is during your presentation, the Panthers were down 1-0. As soon as you started answering questions, we're up 2-1. So thanks for like you must have motivated the Florida Panthers to score some goals as soon as we started asking questions. So.
Yeah, so I have in my book Now Be Happier, I explain the energy that I radiate. No, go ahead.
You could put this in. I mean, maybe the Panthers will hire you. You know, I mean, I would hire you. Shoot.
Well, telepathy, you know, it works sometimes.
Oh, that's so funny. So I know we're actually out of time, and I know somebody actually won something today too, before we thank Mark for a second. So who's our lucky winner?
Our lucky winner for the 1-year BPM RIA membership, $295 value, is Mikelda.
Mikelda, all right.
Congratulations. I'll be in touch with you. And you guys, we recorded this entire session. It will be loaded on our YouTube channel within 24 hours. So please, please, please watch this replay, share it with somebody who needs it. Link is in the chat, and I will be sending each and every one of you a follow-up email with the link to learn from Mark because I know you guys are going to want that information. If you loved him, and I know you're going to want more. So look out for my
Absolutely.
email.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And make sure you
I
give
do want to
us.
mention one thing about logistics is that when I receive from BPM RIA the information on the people that actually buy the course, I'm going to be creating some special instructions for you. I will be traveling quite a lot between now and August 4th. So if I'm traveling, it might be delayed, but in the next few days, if anybody who signs up tonight, I'll be able to get to that pretty quickly. If not, I'll probably get more done in later in June. So
Don't
just
forget the
just
GPT,
to
guys. You get the
Yeah,
GPTs
the two
by
GPTs that you're adding, which is awesome.
and other ones.
The customized, like, which those are all bonuses that I totally appreciate you doing for us, Mark. The other thing is if you really, we always talk about the National Ria Cruise. It's people like Mark, Carl Fisher, some of these guys are like some of the smartest guys in the world, and they're always on the cruise. So I learn a ton from these guys. And again, someone like Mark is the real deal. And I like it because it like everyone else we have here talks about doing, real estate full time.
Yeah.
And his transparency is like, yeah, I really don't want to flip houses. I only do this. And more importantly, he makes money, right? And enjoys his life. So I
Yeah.
love that balance all the way through, Mark. You were by far like a nice breath of fresh air to an
Yes.
extent of like some of the different people we have, even what I speak about too. I mean, I'm passionate about real estate, so I get it. So it's cool that you have that balance too. So any last words, Mark, that you want to tell our Florida people?
I just want to thank you very much for inviting me to speak here, and you're humble when it shouldn't be, because when I'm in the room with you, especially on the National Rio Cruise, I always feel whatever you're doing, I need to listen to what Anish says, because he's got the most sophisticated stuff, like the finance stuff by George Antone and all this other kind of stuff. So I always listen to Anish. It's amusing to me that you would think that whatever. So let's just say that
All right, Mark.
we both respect
Mark,
each other's.
the check's in the mail. Thank you.
Yeah. What the heck?
He's
I
gonna be my
love
promoter. He's gonna be my hype man.
Thank
Well,
you, Mark.
I can't bullshit, because if I do, it hurts my credibility. So if
And you're from
I
Jersey.
as a scientist, I always have to make statements that I can back up with evidence. So,
Great.
uh,
Stand
guys,
up
you all
guy.
know. Anish needs to be quiet right now. Alex, everybody online here that knows Anish knows, that Anish is intelligent and knows, be able to manipulate abstract thought, and knowledgeable. So it's just the way that it is. So
Thank
it's
you
really good.
very much.
I'm not gonna
That
make
made my
statements that I
day.
can't back up.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you so
I'm,
much, Mark. I try telling him all the time, but I'm just kidding. It's really, we are super blessed here at BPM RIA. We have such a great community and just so grateful for your time, Mark. So thank you so, so much. And thank you guys for staying on. Like, you guys literally stayed on 30 minutes late. Like, you guys are the true real ones. So since you're still here, if you haven't done a Google review, please, please, please give a Google review. Shout out Mark. We want him back. Like, this is so cool. So I'm really grateful to see all the positive feedback in the chat as well. Like, I have so many thank yous in the chat right now, Mark. I know you're not looking there, but like lots of
Yep, me
positive
too.
feedback. And like everybody loved you. So thank you guys so much for that feedback. We appreciate it so much. And yes, I'll be emailing you all and highly recommend learning from Mark because it's not, it doesn't come by often. So, and it's going to be a special price than what you're going to find on his website. So, hope you guys loved it and we will see you all, well, our students will see you on Zoom on
Saturday.
Saturday with the sport class, but we'll see everyone else next week on Tuesday, Condo Market.
Yep.
Yep,
Talk to you
that's it.
soon.
Have a
Bye,
great
guys.
night, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Lisa. Bye.
Bye.